Howdy, hey, how is your day? Welcome to the Seeking First podcast, where we open books and talk about getting looks for the topic of this episode, which is about exercise. I'm your host, Erica, and I'm here with my co-host, Bri.
Hey, that was a really bad hey. Hello. I don't know what you say, but I liked that because it's funny that you said that, because when I told some people, not gonna name names, when I told some people that this was our next episode, very small group of people, I got looks. And so
you got the actual looks.
I got the actual looks. They looked at me and they were like, that's interesting. I was like, it is.
I feel like
that's why we're talking about it.
Yes, and I feel like the timing is really ironic to be like, hey, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Do you want to talk about healthy living while you're
Well, it's kind
Christmas
of the great time.
and
it's kind of great timing. I mean, yeah, because like you can keep up healthy habits through the holidays.
Oh, for
and
sure.
Also, New Year's is coming, so people are already thinking about this. So I feel like that like is also in our favor, because everyone has those holiday goals of working out and whatever. But yeah, I'm really excited to talk about this. It's something that you and I are both passionate about, and both have talked about for a while, like just with each other in our different journeys. And then we were just like, well, since our podcast is just stuff we like to talk about and books we like to read, why not just make an episode out of this one? And I have not found any books written about this. I'm sure that there are, but like from a Christian perspective, I don't know of any. So if you do know of any and you're listening, please let us know, because we would be curious in reading them. But I know a lot of secular ones that are good. That sounds bad. Not like, I mean, you know what I mean?
I mean, they can be good objectively. That's fine.
Yeah. Like, but a lot of it's just kind of weird, and like a lot of mental that I don't necessarily believe in, if that makes sense. So, it's just hard. So we decided to do an episode about it because we're just passionate about it. So
yeah,
Erica said she had a good starting off point, so I'm gonna let her go for it.
Look at us going straight into the topic. I'm so proud of us.
We're so good. Well, that just means we'll go off rail later. Yes. I noticed that of us. If we start right away, eventually, like midway through or near the end or something, we go on this huge like derail of the whole conversation. So we'll still get to our little conversation. It just might be later in this episode.
You guys can look forward to it, and then tell us if you reach the point of the episode where we go off of the original topic. That's the challenge in this one. I'm trying to find the passage that
I shoot myself in the foot with this episode because I didn't mark any in my Bible. Like, I didn't mark the passages and I have a lot of passages, so I'll cover some time. After I said that, I have no idea what to say.
I was just gonna say, do you want to?
I don't know how to cover time. But are you looking for? I feel like I know what verse you're looking for. Okay,
I have it. Okay, so we're as if already starting off saying, "Hey, oops, I almost dropped my mic." Hey, we're talking about exercise and healthy living and everything. I'm just gonna utilize this. Also, going to starting out with a not very popular book of the Bible, and one that you wouldn't think would connect, Ecclesiastes. I want to start out with this passage from Ecclesiastes, from chapter 3. It is verses 9 through 15, which is not as long as you think it is, so don't worry. But it says, what gain has the worker from his toil? I have seen the business that God has given to the children of man to be busy with. He has made everything beautiful in its time. Also, he has put eternity into man's heart so that he cannot find out what God has done from the beginning to the end. I perceive that there is nothing better for them than to be joyful and to do good as long as they live. Also, that everyone should eat and drink and take pleasure in all his toil. This is God's gift to man. I perceive that whatever God does endures forever, and nothing can be added to it, nor anything taken from it. God has done it so that people fear before him. That which is already has been, that which is to be already has been, and God seeks that what has been driven away. So, how does that connect to exercise? Okay, so
Tell us, Erica.
I will fill you in. So, I love Ecclesiastes, and a lot of it talks about the toil that God has given man to do, the work that God has ordained for us to do, and also the regular daily pleasures and work the Lord has provided, and how all of those are for His glory and for our good. So I was reading through Ecclesiastes while studying or putting down my thoughts about all of this, and realized, okay, what is an aspect of that toil? It is regularly moving our bodies and being mindful with what we do with our bodies so that we can do the toil set before us. And also sometimes that is the toil. So a lot of us perceive exercise as just like, okay, well, so much times it's a have to, it's a burden, it's this thing that we're like, why do we have to do it? Especially from a spiritual perspective. Like, there's no specific verses that are just like, the Lord calls you to exercise every day for this long and do 10 jumping jacks. Like, no, it's not there. But how can we do the toil that the Lord has set up for us to do each day if our bodies are not physically capable of it, and if we're not regularly preparing our bodies for that daily toil? And so I thought that passage was really interesting, because it also talks about how God's made everything beautiful in its time, and how we cannot find out what God has done from the beginning to the end, and we are to be joyful and to do good, and we should eat and drink and take pleasure in all of our toil. And I think that's an interesting thing to start out with too, with this whole conversation, is we're not saying anything about not eating, drinking, and being merry, but it includes the toil alongside eating, drinking, and taking pleasure in God's good gifts. But that's a lot of times what Bri and I have talked about when it comes to exercise, is it is preparing our bodies, our mind and bodies, for the work that God has set before us each day. So I thought that'd be a good way to start out.
Yeah, that goes well with a passage I have too, and a point that I wrote down is like, something that should really motivate us as Christians to work out or exercise, is the fact that we need to be ready for what the Lord calls us to do. And if you're physically not well enough to do it, and like, I'm not saying, never mind. I'm not going to get into that. You know what I mean when I'm saying this. I understand that there are some people who aren't physically well to do what they have a desire to do. But anyway,
right.
Not regarding that. Anyway, so
this is about like everyday, normal, regular, just wellness.
Yeah. yes. I was thinking about Timothy, First Timothy, Second Timothy. Wait, I wrote down Second Timothy, but I read from First Timothy. Anyway, and just Paul telling Timothy to like prepare and be ready. And in Second Timothy, he talks about, I mean, it's the scripture that most runners will use out of context.
Oh yeah.
That verse, that passage where it says chapter 4, 6 through 8. For I am already being poured out as a drink offering, and the time of my departure has come. For I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, I have kept the faith. Henceforth there is laid up for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on the day, and not only to me, but also those who have loved his appearing. And it just made me think of like this passage in Paul's words, because we ought to be ready, and we ought to run the race, run the good race, and fight the good fight. And so part of that is taking care of ourselves. And because we are image bearers of God, and we need to be taking care of ourselves so that we can do what the Lord has called us to do and be a good servant, and one that is ready and well equipped. And that is over and over, that's repeated in the Bible, to be well equipped for your faith. And so I think that spreads out to spiritually, physically, mentally, like all the things. We're called to be ready and equipped in all of those things. And so a lot of people will, I mean, I know it's hard to do all three of those. It is. It's a challenge to like keep all those plates spinning, but it's what we ought to do and not what we ought to strive for. It's challenging, but it's not impossible.
Yeah, I have one of my passages. I love how all of our passages kind of like correlate and connect with one another.
I know, that's a God thing.
Yeah, because mine goes really well with the always, preparing or being ready for the good fight and the race and all of that. I took a Proverbs passage, which is one of my favorites. That's really convicting. Proverbs chapter 6, verses 6 through 11. And it says, "Go to the ant, O sluggard, consider her ways and be wise. Without having any chief officer or ruler, she prepares her bread in summer and gathers her food in harvest. How long will you lie there, O sluggard? When will you arise from your sleep? A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come upon you like a robber and want like an armed man." And my little note I have with this is, okay, so we don't want to be a sluggard. And we are to think about all things, all of those productive things we're to do, like you said, all those plates that we have to keep spinning, the mental and spiritual. And we're always like, I feel like we read this passage, we're like, okay, don't be a sluggard. So, like, get my chores done, get my stuff done, whatever. But why do we allow ourselves to be sluggards with our physical well being? Like, so often we're so enamored and, okay, well, let's just we're gonna get into so many hot topics with this. I feel like the church does not do a very good job at all of encouraging people to be well physically as much as they do mentally and spiritually. Because so often it is which spiritually is so important. I feel like it's definitely, spiritually, mentally, physically, like whatever. Like there is a little bit of a hierarchy. It should all be obviously at a similar level, but like obviously spiritual is always first, and then the rest should stem from that. But so often we're always like, okay, well, someone who is struggling mentally will be like, okay, how can I help you out with that? Like, how can I help you get back on your feet and to do the dishes and to do whatever? Or if it's spiritually, we're like, well, how can we get a person back into the word or whatever? But if it's physically, we're like, oh, no, you just do you. Like, you're fine, without realizing, okay, but sometimes you're not good spiritually or mentally because you're not good physically, because you are being a sluggard in that area. You will have a little sleep, a little slumber, a folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come upon you like a robber and want like an armed man. You are putting yourself in a position to be more easily tempted in the physical matters of life if you are not regularly preparing your body for the work God has set in front of you to do. So I think just as Christians, as believers, not only should we be encouraging one another spiritually and mentally, but why not physically? You don't have to go up to someone and be like, and like accuse them of it, being like, well, I can tell you don't exercise, you should exercise. Like, no, obviously not.
That's not what we're saying.
That's not what we're saying. It's not what we're saying at all. But I know some people assume that, like, at any point when I have this topic, they assume that, like, I'm just calling out everyone who obviously isn't exercising. Like, no. But if my friend is like struggling, I will sometimes be like, have you gone on like a walk recently? Or like, have you tried when you're really stressed to just like do one of these, one of my favorites for stress relief, Tai Bo workouts, which is like kickboxing? Like, have you tried doing that? Or like, there's so much physical tied up with everything else, and we do not acknowledge that enough in our daily lives. And then we wonder why we're all sluggards in so many other areas. And it's like, oh, well, maybe because we're sluggards physically on a regular basis, especially with the American culture of let me do whatever I want. A lot of people don't have a priority for that anymore. And we can't accuse anyone of it because it's rude and offensive. And that's just created a whole mess in itself. There's my hot take. But
yeah,
do you have anything to add on to that?
No, I agree with that. I think I had a Proverbs one too. Proverbs is really good. But yeah, I mean, we're warned a lot to not be lazy and
yes,
to just move and just be workers. And you can do some work from the couch, but you can't do all the work from the couch.
Right.
And I think also, like, just to clarify, we didn't really clarify this, but when we're talking about like exercise, like if you're like thinking like what you see when you scroll through Instagram, those women are like sweating and they're like just burnt like this many calories. Like, no, we're talking about just like you taking like 20 minutes, 10, 20 when it's 15 minutes, and moving your body in some sort of way purposefully for like the goal of exercise. Like, I love going on walks, and like some days, like I also love working out and running and like doing weights and all of that, and Taibo and like kickboxing, all those like fun ones, and Pilates and all that. But some days, all I have in me is like, okay, I'm just gonna go for a walk because that seems like the easiest option, and I know I need to do something, and so I'll just go for a walk, and like that counts too. Like, let that count. That definitely counts. Like, it's you moving your body. So if you're thinking like that's what we're talking about here, like workout programs and like being like gym bros and members, like no, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about just physically moving your body for the purpose of exercising and for your well-being. So just to clarify that. But yeah, I had a verse in Proverbs. I'll just stick to Proverbs since I turned there to look at your verse, and I was like, ooh, that's good. I think I did actually pull that one for a different section. Anyway. But it worked out. So anyway, I have Proverbs 3, 7, and 8. So I'm gonna read it. Be not wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and turn away from evil. It will be healing to your flesh and refreshment to your bones. And I was thinking about like working, like this verse kind of came up to me because I was just thinking about working out and like weights and all of that, and like how when you're carrying around like a heavy sin burden, how much harder it is spiritually, physically, and all that to have a desire. And so if you're like, okay, like this is great, yeah, I've been convicted, like of like I need to work out more, but like I don't know, like something still feels like, maybe just do like a heart check and just be like, is there some sort of sin? Because like holding on to that as like extra weight to your walking or whatever, and it's like that you need to take care of that. And then if you're like holding on, if you're like working out for not the right reason too, like that's just like extra and depressing. And so like making sure that when you start to work out that you're doing it for the right reasons and with the right heart and mindset, because otherwise what you're just gonna kind of be like treading water. I mean, like as a Christian, you might see like results for your body, but like is your soul good? Is your heart like refreshed? Is your mind at peace with the Lord? Like, you know, you got to keep all of those things in check. And so that verse just kind of stuck out to me because it's so like, I think some people are like, oh, I just feel so bad about myself, and like it must be just because of my weight or the way I look, and so they go so hard in working out. I know, and they're just like killing themselves, like just like working out, and then they get the body that they want or whatever, or the feeling that they want, and they're like, I still don't feel good. And it's like, well, maybe it's a sin problem. Like maybe there's something more here. And it's like we can tend to see people like on the internet too be like, if you're feeling this way, like start working out, like it's gonna fix all your problems. And while yes, I'm a huge advocate for like, you know, working out works stuff in your brain, and it's mentally really good for you. It doesn't doesn't forgive your sins. Your sins aren't forgiven by like working out. And so just keeping that in check, if you're just like thinking, oh, I'm just feeling like this because I need to work out, and that's why. And it's like, well, maybe you need to work out your heart and like go to the Bible first too, which kind of just goes with like what you were saying. I mean, we're both big advocates for you need to be spiritually grounded too before physically. And do those like those two can go together too. I wouldn't even want to say like one before the other. Like they can go together. Like on my walks, I usually just pray because like that's a great time, and then you can just it's just one-on-one time with the Lord, and like you know, a 10-20 minute walk, like that is so encouraging. And sometimes that's just what you need in the week is just a prayer walk, and you're getting both done, and you can check both boxes.
Win-win. Yeah, I think like what you were saying with that mindset, that is so important to know why you're exercising, because like, okay, I love that it's us two that are talking about this, because guys, if anyone, most of the people who listen to this, they know both of us. If you don't, let me just give you a little bit of just a visual of the differences in Bri's and my how we execute this, even though we have the same, you know,
the
perspectives
goal and
on
the
it and beliefs on
mindset,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, but how different it can look, because yeah, Bri enjoys going on runs. I hate running. I've tried multiple times. It's just not enjoyable. It makes me feel like I'm suffering. I'm like, why would I purposely do that?
Why would I?
But like, there's so many people that love running. I'm just like, if you love running, like, do it, go for it. But like, I remember that Bri definitely was interested in this more before I understood it completely, because I wasn't consistent with my exercising. And so I see her doing it, and I was that person who's just like, oh my gosh, she's like just doing this all the time. I'm just jealous because I can't get myself to be motivated to do it. Bada bada bada. And then her and I actually talked about that at one point, and it was when I had started to do this certain type of workout regularly. And I was telling her, I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm like, I feel so much more prepared to serve the Lord once I have moved my body in the day. And I'm like, that's why you're doing it, isn't it? She's like, yes, that's why. Like all that. And then we finally, like, I had this moment where I'm just like, oh my gosh, that's the point. Like, to exercise, to work out, yes, it can help your overall health and well-being. It can help you lose weight. It can help you be more flexible, whatever your other goals are apart from it. But like, ultimately, my ability to serve the Lord and to serve others around me vastly increases on those days that I exercise in the morning, afternoon, whatever. I have like notes here, a note that says, physical exercise isn't just about looking a certain way. It's a way to worship God and train for productivity and ability to do whatever God desires you to do. You can't, and again, as Bri mentioned, obviously, if you have certain health issues, that's a whole thing. We say this all the time with all of our hot takes on
I
stuff.
know.
Obviously, this is not for everyone, but for a majority of people and for general encouragement, you can do so much more if your body is used to exerting itself more and more each day. Because I know last winter I was not exercising at all, and I barely had the desire to do basic daily chores because I did not have the energy for it, because I did not regularly prepare my body mentally and physically for it. And just imagine all those wasted opportunities are things that you can't do if you've been in my position, especially where you're like, there's a day where you're like, I physically can't lift that thing, or I can't, run around with this kid I'm hanging out with, or whatever. And it is, I feel like that's a good kind of shame to have if you process it correctly, to then be like, okay, do I desire to do this? Yes. How can I get there? Okay, I can exercise more. And again, basic exercises like Bri said, like 10 to 20 minutes, whatever, go on a walk, whatever. But like, if you have that mental mindset of what am I doing this for? It is to worship the Lord, because he gave us our bodies and he did not give them to us for us to just have them waste away, for us to use them improperly. Like, everyone's so about the Lord gave us the earth to protect, so why aren't we all eco-friendly? Okay, the Lord also gave you your bodies to protect and to take care of. And why are we forgetting that part? Why are we not taking care of our physical bodies as we should? Like, we should be eating healthier. We should be mindful of what we are doing with our bodies to care for them. Otherwise, we're kind of looking at God being like, hey, thanks for this, but I don't really want it, and just kind of tossing it to the side.
Mhm.
And that's not good. Like, that's an insult to the Lord. And moving our bodies is a worship. Personally, with my exercises, I stretch every time afterwards to kind of do like a cool down. And every time that I stretch, I put on hymns or my worship music. And that is such a good way to end my workout, is to just remember, like, this is for the Lord to prepare me for what he has for me today and for the future. And just to remind me, like, he's the one that gave me this body. He's the one that gave me the ability to move it and to do things with it. I should do that. Like, I should do it with that perspective. I have a verse that kind of goes with this. I always think of one of my favorites, actually. It's Colossians 3:17, and it says, and whatever you do in word or deed, do everything in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him. And that's why we can exercise, to give thanks to the Lord for our bodies and our well-being. And like, I don't know what you guys should do. I feel like this is like the most, like, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful for my physical body moment. After you're sick, like, and you've laid in bed for like 3 days being sick, and that first day that you like wake up without like a sore throat or like not whatever your sickness was, and you just go on like a walk, do you not feel incredible after that? Like, you're like, oh my gosh, I can actually like do things with my body. I can actually physically survive my day like better than before. And we can create that moment every day when you exercise and move your body. It is a beautiful feeling when you're like, oh my gosh, the Lord gave me the breath in my lungs that I can breathe while doing this workout. That like He gave me these arms I can move while doing these things or whatever. Find dance workouts; those are fun. those those are fun, and those move your whole body, and those get you hyped up. Those are some of my favorites, but yeah, that perspective, so important, and I think that's our main point we want to get across. Is like that's why you should do it, and that's honestly the main point to doing it. Don't get so caught up in the modern social media perception of exercise and do it for all these other reasons. Like, do it for the Lord. Do it out of worship and gratitude.
Yeah. It's so crazy how much the media just shoves like, do this for you, do it for you, and like all of that. Like it's constantly in our face, but keep fighting for that mindset of just doing it for the Lord and for his glory. And that's something we should fight for. And Erica froze up really bad, so I'm just gonna pause for a second.
Good gracious. Where were we at, Bri? What were you saying?
I was saying that like it's really hard to keep that, or you finished what you were saying, and then I was like, you froze, and then I was like, yeah, it's really hard to keep that when like social media is like shoving in your face, like do this for you, do it so you feel better, and it's important to fight for. I said it's important to fight for the mindset of doing it for God's glory and not just for you, but for God's glory. So that's where I picked up off kind of. I can keep going if you want me to, so you can get regrounded.
I just I'd like to just put in a fun fact for all of our listeners. My computer, I swear, hates me. That's just what I like to put in. And I just the patience the Lord has taught me through that. No,
Little did we know our train wreck would just be your computer. It wouldn't even be a topic.
It's not even a topic. Guys, the computer was like they're too on task. It was like they're on it, they're on the ball. We're gonna remove this. It's no. Not about it. Oh man. No, I was done with that point basically. So if you have another point, I'm gonna kind of figure out.
Okay, no worries. I'm gonna kind of go off of what you said, because that was like exactly what got. I mean, yeah, you and I had that conversation where you're like, oh, that's why you do it. Like, yes, that's why I do it. But I like can specifically, so like I've been working out like for a long time. Like I've been working out for like as long as I can remember, like little girl, just like doing it with whoever, like just for fun. Not really like wanting any serious project. I just like really enjoyed moving my body, and I thought I liked the challenge of working out, and so I've really been doing that just kind of casually. And then I remember when I started to take it more seriously, but not as in like the fact of like serious like building muscle or toning or whatever, like seriously as in like having an actual desire to keep doing it because of how much it was helping me mentally and spiritually and physically in serving the Lord. And specifically like when I started to run, really that's when it just like that was like my time with the Lord. Like or just like I needed that, like those runs, and especially for the time that I was in, I did not know that the Lord like gave me that gift to be able to run like that, because he knew that like later I would need those runs like that. Mentally they helped me so much through like a really hard time in my life. And so it was just crazy to see how the Lord like so okay, the thing about running is like it's really nice when you come from a line of runners, because your body just like kind of takes some of that. Like I don't know how it works, but it works. It's nice when you come from line. I have 0 runners in my family. I love them all. they did like track and like sprint, whatever, but like zero runners. And so when I was like, I had this desire to run, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't even know the right way to run. But I know that the Lord is giving me this body, and I know that He is gonna sustain me through it. And I was like, it did not feel like it. I was like, not even a mile in, and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know about that sustaining. But I was like, I just kept at it, and but the Lord later used that to show me so much. And that sounds so weird to say, like I've learned so much from the Lord through running, but I really have. And even just like physically and like mentally, like just sometimes I wouldn't even like listen to anything, and I just like would pray the whole time. And those were the times where I would like run a long time, because I would be thinking about my legs and the pain, and then eventually it would start to get so bad that I would feel it. But it was just such a blessing from the Lord that He put that desire in me. And not only that, but He put that ability in me, because I came from nothing, and I was like, I still, it's so weird to me that I'm a runner, because I don't have anyone else to talk to about it. But it's
right.
I'm like, the Lord just, He knew this is like the thing I needed, and He provided a way for me to do that. And I'm like, no, by no means like a fast runner, guys. Okay, I'm not. Like, I am a slow, steady pacer, and I enjoy every minute of my mile. And yeah, so, but it's really amazing how the Lord can even just use something like running, or just like some sort of workout, whatever, to really help you and bless you in a way that you didn't know that it would. And so that's kind of a weird like story of how like running and exercise, like the Lord just showed Himself to me. But He continues to do that still. With just, and like you said, like when you're done stretching, like I always think, I'm like, thank you, Lord, that I can still work my body like this, that I can still do this, and that I still have this ability. And then when I end my workout, it's not like a, oh, thank God I'm done, like I'm so tired. It's like a, thank God I cannot wait to do another one, because like He is given, I mean, you feel the pain sometimes. I'm not saying that I end every one where I'm like, ugh, but like I'm just so grateful that the Lord made me, has kept me. Oh my word. I can't talk. I feel like I'm that kid that's like, have you ever dreamed when you had a,
have you ever had a dream that you
when you did a, and it had a, I feel like that kid. Okay, anyway,
new meme.
I'm really grateful that the Lord has allowed me to continue to work out up until this point. Like, and I pray that He will continue to give me that blessing, because it really is a blessing that we get to do that. So that's my little thing off of Erica's point.
That's great, because that totally retracked my brain to
good.
My next thing I had an idea of. I love that though. I think with me, because it's more of a newer thing with me, and I definitely am not super consistent. Not saying that obviously we're both like, you're super perfect.
Oh yeah, no. Hey, it's winter in Iowa, guys. I very rarely run throughout the winter.
My walks have been halted.
Anyway, it's cold.
It's so cold. But no, I think like the thing is, what I've appreciated the Lord has blessed me with is even when I'm not consistent, I always have that gnawing at the back of my mind to be like, oh my gosh, you know, it would feel great, like exercising and, you know, being in that space mentally, like whatever. I know there was one point that me exercising actually was my kind of wake up thing, because I was struggling to stay awake while reading my Bible. And so I was just like, okay, how can I stay awake to read my Bible? And I'm like, oh, well, if I do like cardio workout beforehand, I'm way more awake to read my Bible after that. And so it's kind of like my mental wake up before that. I always think about, is it George Mueller is the praying guy? Yes. I'm glad I had Bethany this time to nod her head and remind me. But he always went on walks while he prayed and read his Bible, and like that helped him, you know, wake up in the morning and like just get his day started right. And so I think about that a lot. Also, my other like kind of inspiration is my grandpa walks like 3 miles every day or something. I don't know if he still does that, but he usually does in the summer. And his favorite thing to do while walking is talking to other people he meets. So like when they stay at a campground all summer, his goal on his walks is to meet one new person every time and like to start up a conversation with them. And he just sees it as his mission field, kind of, is to go on walks and to talk to people and to grow those connections. And so I've started having that perspective since moving here, especially to utilize, taking that part of exercising, going on walks to try to meet someone new every time or to wave or to whatever. And that's always a fun bonding moment too, when you kind of also line up with someone else's regular walk schedule. And so you kind of have like that bond of like, oh, hey, your regular walk, I'm on my regular walk. Like, how was your day? And you get those consistent connections and serving moments. And I think that's a really cool aspect of it that a lot of people don't think of as well. Like, it doesn't just have to be so individual, or you can go on walks with other people, which is sometimes super helpful for those that you don't know as well, because it takes the awkwardness and uncomfortableness away. There's just so much that you can do that the Lord has provided us to do physically and mentally and spiritually all at once. And because of our laziness and our sluggishness, we're like, well, why can't I just sit somewhere and do that the whole time? And it's like, okay, well, yeah, there's a time for that, but there's also a time for moving our bodies and for maybe that helps you mentally to pay attention or to wake up your brain or whatever. But yeah, I always try to think every time I do a workout or exercise, I'm like, what is the spiritual purpose of this? And what can I gain from this to get closer to the Lord or to grow in my prayer life or whatever, like you said, with how you pray on your runs. Like, I almost always pray or listen to a podcast or, try to meet people on my walks. Like, there's always a purpose to it other than just walking. As you can tell, that's my favorite thing to do is to go on walks alongside my all my other ones that I pick because I have ADHD and I can't stay consistent on one type of exercising or I get bored. But I think that's a huge important factor. It's like all the different aspects to it and like things like that. I would also like to give a little side note to exercising as well, to give a little bit of insight into also another hot topic that people will probably be like, oh my gosh, they've already hit on exercise, why are we hitting on this? Mindful eating habits are also really helpful spiritually and mentally. People don't like to admit it, but we all know if you eat a bunch of crap food, you're not going to feel good. And there's not made to make our bodies work well. Ironically, Josh and I were actually kind of talking about this on the drive home from our family outing today. And we were like, oh man, all these processed foods, like at least every one of all these different diets that have gone out, like the carnivore diet or vegan diet or plant-based diet, everyone can agree, hey, let's just avoid processed foods. Let's just avoid all this stuff that makes us feel gross. Like, I don't care which direction you go. I don't care if you eat meat or not. But like, at least everyone can agree, oh, processed food is bad. Like there are foods that just aren't good. And I think we have to talk about that alongside exercising for at least a tiny bit, because
for sure.
No matter how much you exercise, if you're still eating garbage food, it's not going to give you the benefits as it could.
Yeah, it kind of is like a reverse effect.
Yes, it
because that stuff like makes you tired and it makes your stomach not feel great. Yes. And you just like, I think the thing that gets me the most is like, I just feel like I'm dragging. And when you're like feeling like you're dragging and drowsy, like you're not gonna like, it's gonna be super hard to motivate yourself to like move your body. But if you're eating like good nutritious food, you're gonna feel good and you're gonna be like, hey, I feel like doing this. I feel like going and going on a walk. I feel like going running or whatever. Like you're gonna actually feel like doing it because your body's gonna feel ready. And I agree. I'm a big advocate for clean eating. And I know it kind of sounds like sometimes that term can have like a condescending wave over it. People are like, oh dear, she's an almond girly.
She's gonna shame me.
I'm just kidding. I'm not a crunch mom.
She's gonna glare at me as I eat my greasy pizza slice.
No, I don't judge. No. But it can really change the game. It really can. Yeah. Like when I'm not getting like the right vitamins, I can definitely tell. Bro. Like taking vitamins, eating foods with lots of good vitamins has such a huge difference. I've been on like a really big passionate protein, like just eating lots of protein. And oh my word, it's a game changer. Yeah. When you're actually eating like good protein, game changer. And fruits and
I'm hardcore on vitamins. Once again, because of Josh, because there's a point in my life where I was struggling a lot mentally, and him and Bethany just brought up, they're just like, so what about vitamins? And I'm just like, what about them? And they're just like, probably be really helpful. And ironically, I ran out of my vitamins a few days ago, and since then, mentally, I've not been doing too hot. And so, not that it's all that, but definitely like eating well and being mindful of what you're eating. I've talked to Bri about this before, where I love this app called it's called LifeSum, and okay, again, let me preface this with we're not going to calorie counting, eat everything with shame that's not a certain amount of calories, but it's the mindset of, I love to track my food, and maybe you don't, but I like to, so that if I'm hungry, I can know why I'm hungry and what I need to eat. So it's not like, oh, I'm hungry, I'm shamed that I'm hungry, but I can go in and see what food I've eaten, and I can be like, okay, so I haven't had much protein, or I haven't had much of this. Like, this is what I'm craving, so I can provide my body with the proper nutrients and things that I need, and not kind of shame myself for, eating certain food if I feel like I've eaten a certain amount, quote unquote, or whatever. Like, it's never to be like I've eaten too much or too little, but it's literally just so I could be like, oh my gosh, I didn't eat breakfast. No wonder I'm like super hungry even after I've had like a normal amount of lunch. Like, I didn't have breakfast. It's like my body's confused. And so, like, I think that's super helpful if you are like me and you're just very forgetful, or just not, or kind of just absent-minded, where I can go and see a visual of like, okay, I, haven't been eating foods with good vitamins or without proper, like, help to my body. Sometimes it's sad because I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't eaten vegetables in 2 days. No wonder I'm feeling crazy. And like those kind of things, is really, really helpful to say. That's why I like to say mindful, healthy eating. Like, it's not just to shame yourself or to starve yourself. It's just to be aware of what you're eating, so that you can do the best you can to serve your body well that the Lord has given you. So,
yeah, it's vitamins, healthy, like clean food. Just try it, and then I promise you that you'll see like results, and you'll just be like, wow, this is great, and you'll just want to keep doing it. Like, you just try it for a couple weeks. But yeah, that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up, because that does play into it quite a bit. Let's see. I made a little list of, so I feel like I'm kind of jumping back and forth. My notes aren't like, so, okay, my notes are literally just my thoughts when I was like thinking about this. So I just wrote down things as I was thinking. So they're kind of everywhere. But when so it's very easy to, I'm restarting. It's very easy to think about like, oh, I should be doing this and this and this and this and like all of these things. And sometimes you need to just take a moment, like we were saying earlier, and think about where these desires are coming from. And I just have like 3 things. Well, one question has 2 in it, but it works. So don't come at me. I just have 3 things that I try really hard to practice in asking myself before I jump into something or do something. Just some, I don't know. I'm just following David Mathis and just like making a little list for you.
I love it. We got to keep it going.
So the first thing on my list, so this is like good questions to ask about your goals that you're putting on yourself, especially physical, like all of that is what I'm referring to. Does this build me up, or is this going to build the kingdom up? Ooh. And like, where does this build? Who is this building up? Is this building up my self-esteem, or is this building up my desire to serve the Lord better? Like, what is this building up? And the second one is, am I seeking my own good? It kind of goes with the second one a little bit, but when I think of this one, I'm like, am I just seeking like benefits, like, oh, I look good, or I'll fit in this dress better, or whatever? Like, am I just looking for my own interest of like how I appear and whatever? And then, is my goal glorifying God or myself? And I understand that these 3 questions could probably be lumped into one, but when you put it through a 3-way filter, you think about them more, and it's like, okay, you can be doing it and be like, yeah, I'm doing it this, and like, okay, but how about the way you're doing it? Is the way you're doing it glorifying God? Is the way you want to do it glorifying God? Like, is it going to bring God glory around all of this? And so asking yourself those 3 questions in different ways. That's one question in different ways. Is super helpful for me to just step back and be like, okay, need to do some searching here. Like, what's my actual goal in this? And if it's like not the right goal, then I'll just wait. I'll just check myself and I'll just like, okay, well, I need to figure out something that's not going to be like building up my selfishness or my like desire to be fit or whatever. Like doing it for God's glory, because that's ultimately why both Eric and I do it, is because of that. And so if that's not what you're striving for, it's just going to be exhausting. You know, I've done that a couple of times before. I know it's exhausing when the goal is not where it needs to be.
Well, it feels like
it becomes like it's like working out.
Yeah. Well, it actually is a workout. Right. It actually sucks. It actually sucks. No, there is
like I feel zero of it. I feel so much pain, but I'm just so empty.
The soreness suddenly becomes just pain instead of like satisfying. That's disappointing.
We're like kind of joking about this.
Right. I mean, honestly though, perspective changes everything. And I think it also takes the weight off of like pressuring yourself into it rather than just genuinely wanting to do it. I have like my little list of like little personal things that I've gotten out of just exercising regularly, which kind of sums up some of what I've said, but it's I'll just go through them quickly. So like better mental health, which equals to better spiritual health, wakes up my mind and body to serve the Lord, gives me more energy. I can use it to worship. It keeps me out of bad habits. That's a huge one, like being on my phone or doing things that aren't helpful. Helps me feel less lethargic while doing things. And it makes your day feel easier because you're prepared for it. It's thanking God for your body, and it's not being the sluggard that is mentioned in Proverbs. There's so many positives to it, so many more positives than negatives, and I think, with the right mindset, right perspective, it is such a beautiful thing to do. And I really hope, like, just some of what we've said and some of maybe some of the struggles you've gone through or some of the shame you felt associated with it or pressure or whatever can be lifted, because once I said again, like, in the church, it's not talked about. Like, it's almost shameful for you to bring up exercise because everyone's like, oh my gosh, well, what about the, like, these, like, are you saying that I'm obese or I don't do this? I'm just like, no, like, I'm just encouraging you to do something that will help your spiritual walk. Like, this is just another thing that will help your spiritual walk, and just no one talks about it. And it makes me sad because there's so many females who, especially females, that have the wrong mindset, and so they beat themselves up over it. It's not satisfying. It's not joyful. It's not to serve the Lord, and it breaks my heart to see that. And I think we need to encourage one another up. Like, maybe that can be your challenge. If you do regularly exercise, go find another Christian female friend and ask to do something with, like, be like, do you want to go on a walk together? Do you want to go on a prayer walk together? Do you want to do a fun workout together, a fun dance workout or Taekwondo or kickboxing, whatever? Like, do that. And then if you're one who doesn't regularly exercise, I would highly encourage you to just do it maybe like twice a week. Like, just start with something once a week, then to twice, and add on, whatever. That's what I sometimes do. And just to get yourself in the rhythm of it so you can see the effects, and then find someone who does regularly exercise, or find someone who wants to, and keep each other accountable and just do it together for fun, like for enjoyment, to serve the Lord. I think that's key, and I think that is a part of the community of the church that we do not acknowledge that we should. Because I don't know. I just think back to Bible times, and they literally walked everywhere. Like, they had to do so much to be able to do anything.
So much physical labor.
Yes, and we're so lazy now, and we gotta do better. Just for the sake of the Lord.
We just gotta live like the olden days. I'm just kidding. That's not the answer.
Put on some sandals and walk in the dirt. That's what
and go to the well and get your water.
Carry it back on your head. This is how we are now doing it. This is forget all of what we just said. This is the point.
This is the point. This is actually what we've been advocating for this whole episode. You just don't know.
This whole time we haven't actually been doing any of those workouts. We're putting on sandals and going to the desert every day.
I mean, honestly, if you think about that and like how we just complain about like walking around the block, and it's like, oh my word, we are so spoiled. And it's like, it's no wonder we have such a hard time because like everything's just so easy. And it's like, well, I don't have to walk around the block. And I was like, well, they used to have to walk a long time just to get water.
My parents used to have to walk uphill both ways to get to school.
That's right.
What happened to that?
Oh my gosh.
I was homeschooled. Okay, I didn't walk anywhere to get to school.
Yeah, same. Wait.
I had lazy. One of my exercises my mom gave me for my PE was literally running up and down the stairs a certain amount of time.
That's so funny. My mom made us run around the house, but okay, so at first she tried this. I'm just calling her out. I'm just calling her out here. So the first she started these really peaceful morning walks as a family before we started school. And then she turned it into this crucial, brutal, and this is, I mean, now I wouldn't think it's brutal. But she would make us run around the house like 5 times in the morning. Like right after breakfast. And she was like, 5 times around the house. And we'd be like, what? But you know what? It was good. It was good. She was putting that habit in us that I didn't know we needed. But still, I was just like, mother, oh my word.
I just had too many public school friends that like they would tell me about their PE class and I'd be like, oh, I got it good. Like I don't have to do laps or whatever. Like I guess you guys kind of had to with around the house, but even that's not as bad as like the laps.
It's not as bad. Our house was small back then, so I don't even know why I was complaining.
Dude, my mom would like do a different one each day and then it would just rotate. So it was like the stairs you'd run up and down. Another one would be like come up with a dance routine and like show it to your siblings. Another one was like do the Wii Fit like step thing or whatever. And I was like go on a walk. Like it's all these different ones, which I love that she still did it and that we still had that regular habit of like, okay, we still have to do our PE, quote unquote, because I feel like it barely counted, but it was something and it was fun. Like that was what was always great about it was fun. Like it was put into the light of like, you know, I'll have you do things you already enjoy doing, but we're just going to put a title on it so that you understand that, yeah, this is exercise and it's good and it's fun.
Which that works for now too. You can just do something you already enjoy doing for exercise.
Right. Oh my gosh, for real. I'm telling you guys, the dance videos. I did worship dance for years and I loved it. I find dance videos, it's so fun. So fun. Oh my gosh. And it's great. And it's exercise. It's actually really good exercise.
Or this is a good time for me to advocate for more runners in the world.
Yeah.
You can run and feel your youth again after a while.
After
kids
you go
always
through the
run,
original
and so I was like,
period.
oh, remember when kids used to run, be able to run like crazy when you were a kid? Like you could do that as an adult, just so you know.
Dude, it's honestly, an option. I wish I liked it more. I
did too. We would have such good runs together.
Oh, I've gotten to my max has been like 2 blocks, which I feel like is impressive when I don't run at all. So there's that. But I ran one time and one of the students was just like, your stride sucks and you don't do it right. And I was like, oh,
thank you.
Well, now I don't want to do it.
Well, now I've lost all motivation and confidence. So
like the little bit I wanted to do, you just crushed. Thank you. And they're like, I can show you how to do it right. And then they try to show me. I'm like, I have no flipping clue what you're showing me right now. Like, I don't know. I'm just gonna go back to walking. I know how to walk, so that's okay.
I can't mess that up.
I can't mess up walking. Oh my gosh, it was really sad, funny. But I should try again at some point.
Hey, I'll acknowledge that it's not for everyone, but anyway. This was a good episode. I'm really glad we did this little bonus one. I have some hot questions to ask you, but I think I'm gonna save those because I think that'd be kind of fun. Hot take questions, I guess. Because I was silly me. That's what I was thinking. Yes. Silly me. I was like, maybe we'll have some time at the end that we need to fill.
We think that every time.
Whatever.
Every time.
That will never happen.
Every time that we're just like, this is only gonna be like a 30-minute episode. Like we have barely any notes.
This is gonna be so short.
Oh my gosh, what'd you do? You got rid of her. Sorry, Josh removed your face.
Oh, you got rid of me. Okay, that's all right. That's our sign. That's our sign to wrap up.
I'm kidding. I do have. Can I finish up with a couple of verses real fast?
Sure.
That I still have. That I feel like sums up everything.
I don't know why you're asking me.
Because
you can just do it.
This is a team effort.
Oh, okay.
So the one is another Colossians verse, Colossians chapter 3, verse 23. That says, "Whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for men." And then the other one is we are wrapping up, going back to Ecclesiastes. I just thought that'd be fun.
Oh, yeah. Open and close it.
Open and close with Ecclesiastes. Everyone should read Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes is great. Read it with the right mindset. Read it with a good commentary, because that makes it better. I love it. But it is the very last chapters of Ecclesiastes. Sorry, last verses, not chapters. But it's chapter 12, verses 13 and 14. That says, "The end of the matter, all has been heard. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For God will bring every deed into judgment with every secret thing, whether good or evil." I think that just gives a good end and good perspective.
And amen.
Too. Yeah, that is why we're doing it. We're doing it for the Lord, not for men. Yeah, go exercise and eat some good food. And do it heartily as for the Lord. Yeah, do you have anything else to add, or are you good?
No, I'm good.
I'm good. Awesome. All right. I hope you'll join us again next time for more tea and shenanigans on the Seeking First podcast. Remember to go support us and join our Facebook group officially with a membership for $3 a month at BuyMeACoffee.com/Seeking First. And as always, you can contact us through posts or messages on Instagram and Facebook at Seeking First Podcast. See ya.
Bye. I didn't say see ya. Oops. See ya.
I took your see ya.
Yeah, I was like, I can't say it twice. I can't say it twice.
We have dramatic pause at the beginning and the end.
Yeah.
Sorry, I realized I took it too. I was like, oh no, I took
rude. First you take my name, now you take my phrases.
I don't have my phrase at the end of the sentence that I have typed out for that. So I have, every time I finish it, there's a moment of panic in my brain being like, what's the word that I say? What's the word that I say? My apologies.
It's fine. I think